So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our Find Your Fit Navigating the School Selection Process for the school year 2025-2026 Town Hall. I ask that you please be patient with us as we support our non-English speaking parent participants. The school selection town hall will begin in just one moment. Okay, are our interpretation rooms open? Okay. So we will be recording our presentation today. All participants are muted during this presentation. However, we ask that you please place any questions you have during the presentation in the Q&A box. For today's agenda, we will begin by going over an introduction to school selection. We will define the process. We will talk about the types of schools. We will review who can participate in the school selection process. And then we will also talk about key changes made to the school selection process this year. We will then move into a high-level timeline for the school selection process. We will review our criteria-based schools. We will talk about the eligibility for the lottery, as well as the appeal process. We'll then go into the application process and end our session with resources for families. And then if we have time remaining, we will entertain any additional questions and answers. My name is Erica Washington. I am the Deputy Chief of Student Enrollment and Placement. And I am joined today by my colleagues. Melanie, I'll turn it over to you for introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melanie Harris, and I am the Chief Information Officer at the School District of Philadelphia.
And then we have partners here from offices across the district who worked with school selection process, and they will be here to answer your questions as you type them in the Q&A box. So let's begin with an introduction to school selection. The school selection process allows students who are currently in pre-kindergarten through 11th grade to apply to School District of Philadelphia schools that have available space for the 2025-2026 school year. So this school selection process that you are participating in is for enrollment for next year, the 2025-2026 school year. School selection is only for families who want to send their children to a school that is outside of their catchment or their neighborhood. And we'll talk a little bit about those school types and the difference between the catchment school and other school types. If students are looking to enroll in their catchment or neighborhood school, they can do so at any time. And we'll talk about that process and how you can enroll in your catchment school. The school selection process requires an online application. The application window this year opens next Friday, September 13th, 2024 at 4:00 p.m. and it closes this year on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. That date and that time is strictly adhered to. And so if you try to apply at 12:00 a.m., 1:00 in the morning on the 24th, you will not be able to do so. The application closes on October 23rd at 11:59 p.m. The application is available in at least 10 languages. It uses a centralized lottery system as well as a centralized waitlist system. And we will talk a little bit about the lottery and the waitlist later on in this session. The school selection process offers students the opportunity to apply to schools that require criteria. And the criteria for this year is just like last year, it's grades, attendance, and standardized assessments. There are, however, some criteria-based schools or programs that have additional requirements, such as our performance-based programs where students are required to audition to be eligible. Participating schools in the school selection process does not include charter, parochial, or private schools. So if families are looking to enroll or interested in their child attending a charter school, parochial school, or private school, they should contact those schools directly, as this process does not include those schools. There are a couple of priorities that are given in the school selection process, one of them being zip code preference. So the school selection process prioritizes the applications of qualified applicants. So the applicant must still be eligible, but they live in a specific zip code that has the lowest representation of students accepting offers over the last 4 years. And this zip code preference is only applied to 4 of our criteria-based schools. They are the Academy at Palumbo for 9th grade admission only, Carver Engineering and Science for 7th and 9th grade only, Central High School for admission to 9th grade only, and Masterman High School or Masterman School for admission to 5th grade and 9th grade. So the 3 types of schools in the school district of Philadelphia are as follows. We talked about the catchment schools, where the catchment school is the school that is connected to the family's home address. Students can apply to catchment schools that are not connected to their home address. That is not their catchment school through the school selection process. Catchment schools have no criteria. So anyone applying to a catchment school would be eligible for that school's lottery. Citywide schools are similar to catchment schools in that they do not have criteria. So all applicants, again, are entered into the lottery for citywide schools. But the only way to get into a citywide school is through the school selection process. Catchment schools and citywide schools both have sibling preference. That sibling preference or sibling priority is given to students that are applying to a catchment school or citywide school where the sibling currently is enrolled and will be enrolled next year. Sibling preference does not apply to two siblings applying at the same time to enter the school. One of the siblings must already be in attendance or enrolled in the school for the applicant to have sibling preference. Sibling preference does not apply to twins that are applying to the same school. So it is possible that twins are applying to the same school and one student may have an acceptance and one student may not. With our 4 criteria-based schools that I just mentioned, those criteria-based schools have zip code preference. The difference between criteria-based schools and the other 2 schools that we just talked about is that criteria-based schools have admissions criteria of grades, attendance, standardized assessments, and in certain schools, an additional requirement. In order to get into a criteria-based school, similar to a citywide school, you must be entered into the lottery and you must go through the school selection process. The school selection process prioritizes any resident of the city of Philadelphia who is seeking to attend a school district of Philadelphia public school. Students who live outside of the boundaries of the city of Philadelphia may participate. However, residents of Philadelphia are given priority. And this is in accordance with our policy 202 for non-resident students, which states that non-resident students may not be admitted to any school or academic program where their enrollment would displace a resident student. Non-resident students who attend the School District of Philadelphia must pay tuition to attend, but they cannot displace a resident of Philadelphia. Residents are given priority. I will turn it over to Melanie, who will talk about the key changes for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, Erica. So here's what's different this year, and this is really important. So you're going to hear it reiterated a couple times through the presentation. In the past, we have asked students and parents to fill out to 5 choices. But in the past, those 5 choices were independent. We did not look at number 1 as more desirable than number 2 or number 3, and so on. Now, for the first time, both in listening to parents and looking at what other school districts are doing that seem to be more flexible and fairer to students, we are asking students to rank their choices in order of desired spot. So your first school that you place in box number 1 should be the school that your child desires the most. Box number 2, second choice, 3, third choice, 4, fourth choice, and up to 5. Very important. In the past, your child, if you applied to 5 schools, could get up to 5 offers. If you applied to 4, could get up to 4 offers. And then we asked you to pick which one you wanted out of those multiple offers. In this new rank-based system, you will only receive up to 1 offer. There is still a chance that you could receive 0 offers. We have a handful of very desirable schools, and if you only apply to the most desirable schools based on the number of applications, that could happen. But regardless, no one will get 5 offers or 4 or 3. The most you can get is 1 offer. So again, we ask you to rank in order of desired choice, 1 through 5, and the system will try to place you with your first desired school, if not your second desired school, if not your third desired school. So that's very important. You will only remain on the wait list for schools higher than the one you receive. In the past, if you received offers to 3 schools, let's say, and you accepted 1, the other 2 would remain on your wait list. If you were offered one of those wait list spots later, the other options would then disappear. Now, this is slightly different, and I will share it, and then feel free to drop questions in the chat. If you receive the 1 offer to your third choice, let's say, once you accept that third choice, your wait list for choices 4 and 5 will go away. They will no longer be available to you because they were less desirable than the third choice offer that you received. But you will stay on the wait list for your first desired spot and your second desired spot. Should your second desired spot become available, it's offered to you and you accept it, you will still be on the wait list for your first desired spot. So that's a bonus. Before, you would not be on the wait list still, but here we are trying to recognize that you have a preference, and we're going to leave you on the wait list for as long as there are higher desired choices than the one you received. And that could go up until the next school year opens. That's not just for the spring. That could be until, school opens next year as children make choices to go other places. I will say the one thing that if you are in a school, which we're calling a continuation school, you're in a middle school, high school combo school. So you are in Carver, Hill Friedman, Masterman, SLA Bieber. Please, somebody let me know if I missed another one.
Camp.
Thank you. I was missed one. There's 5. And you want to stay at your continuation school, you need to list that number 1. You need to list that number 1. I know that there may be a question that says, what if I list it number 2 because I want that guarantee, but I also want to take a shot at another school? I'm waiting for like really detailed clarification, and we'll put it on the website. But I will say, if you want a guaranteed spot at your continuation school, put it number 1 and put it on your list. We cannot promise that the algorithm will work, that I'm going to put it there as a just in case number 2 if I'm at Carver, but I want to take a shot at getting into Masterman. That is not guaranteed. Then jumping down to bullet point number 4, the district offers several assessments to count. We offer for our students to take the PSSA. We know that children coming in from private schools, parochial and otherwise, out of state, use other tests. We do accept several other tests, and you will see them on a screen later. But the one we are removing is the PASA. The PASA will no longer be accepted as a standardized test in the assessment category. The zip codes, once again, we are doing zip code preference. There are 2 new zip codes. The rest are the same. We can let you know which ones have been replaced in the chat, but there's still a zip code preference. just zip codes have changed slightly. And just to reiterate how that works, each year our research department looks at what part of the city we get the least participants from, and to engage more families, that those zip codes can change to in an effort to get more participation from different areas of the city. Okay.
So now we will review the timeline for the process this year. As I mentioned earlier, the application opens on Friday, September 13th at 4:00 p.m. At that time, the application will be open and students can start to submit their application to up to 5 schools. The application window will continue September through October. During that time, we will host application labs for students and families across the city. And I will show you where you can find the schedule for the application labs later in this session. We will also host office hours for counselors and school staff in schools across the city. These virtual office hours will be open to not only School District of Philadelphia counselors and staff, but our partners in charter, private, and parochial schools. The application then closes on Wednesday, October 23rd at 11:59 p.m. Moving in November and December, our eligibility will be released, and that is eligibility either for the lottery or in some cases, eligibility to move to an audition phase at a school. The appeals window opens and closes, and then moving in December through January, we have our individualized review process that happens. Our children will be auditioning, giving their project-based presentations. Appeals will be reviewed, all getting ready for final eligibility to be released in January, the lottery to run, for offers to be made, acceptances, as well as our initial round of waitlist offers. In response to families and the community, we have made sure that we keep this timeline at a high level, and we release specific dates closer to that window. And so I will show you the website where you can go and find the dates as we move through the process over the next 6 months or so. Now let's take a look at our criteria-based schools. As I mentioned, our criteria-based schools all have criteria for grades, attendance, and approved standardized assessments. All of the criteria must be met in order to be eligible to be entered into the lottery for our criteria-based schools. We stress the importance to families and making sure that students only apply to schools for which they are eligible and for which they meet the criteria. If the criteria is not met, they will not be entered into the lottery for those schools. And there are some schools that have additional requirements, such as our audition and project-based presentations, and Algebra 1 is still a requirement for Masterman High School. And I will talk a little bit about the Algebra 1 requirement in just a few moments. So let's look at the grading criteria. Criteria-based schools will use grades for the previous 2 school years, the 2022-2023 school year and the 23-24 school year. And it is the best grades from the 4 core subjects of English, math, science, and social studies. Now, there are some schools that may offer reading or may offer writing instead of English. and that's okay. However, students must have a letter grade for both reading and writing if English is not available. So it is English or reading and writing. And then there is math, science, and social studies. You must have grades for each of these core subjects for at least one of those 2 prior years. If all 4 subjects do not have at least 1 letter grade for at least 1 academic year, the student will be marked ineligible for the lottery for all criteria-based schools. If only 1 year of grades are available, those grades will be used as the student's best grade. So let's drill down a little further to see what this looks like. Let's say we have a child's report where the final grades for English in the 22-23 year was the letter A, and in the 23-24 year, they received a D. The A would be taken as the best grade for that subject and would be used to determine criteria. Let's say the child received a C in year 1 and a B in year 2, 23-24. The B is the best grade, so the B would be used for criteria. When looking at the best grade does not all they do not all have to be in the same year. It is the best grade in each subject, independent of the other subject and independent of the other years. The same thing goes for our attendance. The attendance criteria is looking for the best attendance record from the previous 2 years, 2022-23 and 23-24. The attendance criteria only looks at unexcused absences. Excused absences are not included. Lateness is not included. Suspensions are not included. The attendance criteria are unexcused absences only, and it is the best attendance record from the 2 years. For our attendance criteria, all of our schools either have a 95% attendance criteria, and if it's 95%, that means students must have 9 or fewer unexcused absences. For those schools that have 90% attendance criteria, students must have 18 or fewer unexcused absences. And again, the criteria is strict. And so if there is anything over 9 and that school that they're applying to has a 95% criteria, that student would be ineligible for that school's lottery. Similar to grades, if only 1 year of attendance is available, that attendance will be used as the student's best attendance record. So let's look at an example of an attendance record. If in the 22-23 school year, a child had 9 unexcused absences, and 23 and 24 year, they had 10 unexcused absences, the 9 would be used to determine eligibility. Let's say in that same year, they had 12 excused absences, and in the second year, they had 0. Giving a total absence record of 21 absences in the first year, 22-23, that first year would still be used for eligibility because it is the best attendance record when looking only at unexcused absences. So the 9 unexcused absences would be used to determine eligibility. Standardized assessments also looks at the scores for the 22-23 and 23-24 school years. Students applying to criteria-based schools require at least one ELA, English Language Arts or Reading, and one Mathematics approved standardized assessment score. We recommend and we encourage for both years of scores to be included in the student's application because we will use the best score of the 2 years to determine eligibility. And so for standardized assessments, we are looking at ELA and math for the 22-23 and 23 and or 23-24 school year. Standardized assessment scores are not required for applications to the 11th and 12th grade. So if students are applying to the 11th or 12th grade for next year, and they are applying to a criteria-based school, they are only required to meet the grades and attendance assessments, as the middle school assessments will not be used and will not be collected for criteria. Here you will find, in addition to the PSSAs, PSSAs are given to are administered in the school district of Philadelphia. And those are the standardized assessments that we will be using. In addition to the PSSAs, these other standardized assessments are approved standardized assessments for criteria-based schools. And I will show you where all of this information can be found in just a few moments. Remember to please drop your questions in the Q&A box, as my colleagues are here to answer those for you. So for our homeschool families, we understand that homeschool families do not have final report cards like students who are in brick and mortar schools. So applications from homeschooled students should not include the common transcript form unless it is signed by an external evaluator. And we will talk a little bit about the common transcript form when we talk about the application. Homeschool applicants must include their end-of-year progress report or one of the acceptable documents that are listed here as evidence of the applicant's completion of their homeschooling program. The acceptable documentation includes the affidavit of homeschool education program. You can include the evaluation of the home education program, which is different from the annual homeschooling evaluation certification review. That's not an acceptable document. It is the evaluation of the home education program. Or you may complete and submit a common transcript form if it is signed by an external evaluator, a homeschooling partner or affiliate, or the co-op, but it cannot be signed by the parent. Also as acceptable are the homeschooling quarterly reports. So let's look at what it means to be eligible. Eligible and what are the conditions for appeals. An eligibility decision states or means that your child is eligible to be entered into the lottery. And so when you get the eligibility decision for criteria-based schools, it means that the student meets all of the criteria for that school, or they were deemed eligible through the individualized review process. For students that have applied to citywide or catchment schools, again, because they do not have criteria, all students are eligible for the lottery. Offers are made for these schools based on space in the school. So for those students whose application is deemed ineligible, we provide parents with an opportunity to appeal an ineligible decision only if the guardian was unable to fully complete the application as a result of a barrier. And those barriers include language, physical disability, or a custody order, meaning there is a custody order in place which grants certain rights or certain responsibilities by both parties, and that was not abided by during the application. And so for those reasons, a guardian may appeal an ineligible decision. These are the only reasons why a family can appeal an ineligible decision. If there was a language barrier, a physical disability, or a custody order that created a barrier. The other type of appeal that is available is the individualized review. The individualized review is the appeal process for students with IEPs, 504 plans, and our designated English learners who are applying to criteria-based schools. The individualized review process determines if the student can be successful given reasonable accommodations and supports at the criteria-based school without significantly modifying that program at the school. The individualized review does not guarantee eligibility. It is conducted before the lottery runs, so students who are eligible from the individualized review are placed in the lottery. And for more information about the individualized review process, I welcome you to attend one of our individualized review town halls that will be held next week, where our content experts on the process will present on the process and details of it. And so I will share with you later the dates and locations for those town halls. So now I will turn it over to Melanie, who will go over the school selection application.
Sure, and Heather, feel free to jump in if I miss anything here. So as we have stated, the application will open next Friday, September 13th at 4 p.m. And that it will close on October 23rd at 11:59 p.m. As Erica stated earlier, it's a Wednesday this year. It's the first time it's been a Wednesday in a long time. Everything that we need on a student has to be in there by the 23rd. So everything that Erica shared between if you're an external student and you are submitting the common transcript form, if you are submitting external, SSAs on the common transcript form, everything has to be in there. Your enrollment has to be in there. There's nothing that can be in there afterwards. That is very strict. And you do not need to use this if you are in the catchment school. If you live in the neighborhood, that's your elementary school. You live in the neighborhood, you're going to your neighborhood high school or middle school. You do not need to use this. This is only if you are applying outside of your catchment. I do know last night when Erica and I were hosting an in-person session, there was a question specifically about PAL and SLAMs. If there are any Power Slams parents here, we can also clarify that, that you do not need to apply to SLA Middle School if you are already at PAL. This is, again, as we've stated, you have up to 5 offers. There is no better alternative if you only apply to one. That there's no benefit to that. We strongly suggest that you take advantage of all 5. You put them in the order of your interest. There's no way to I'll say game the system by putting something number 2 because you think number 1 is, going to get filled and you're going to be the top at number 2. Do this as straight as possible. Your 5 choices in the order of interest. And you can, I saw that was asked in the question and Heather answered it. You can update and change them. There's no benefit, like if you fill out the application on the day that it opens versus the day that it closes, everyone gets the same shot. There's no benefit to filling out your application first. You can change your application as many times as you want. If your child says, oh, mom, I know I ordered them this order 1 through 5, but now I really want to swap number 2 and number 3. As long as the application window is in there, you can go through and make that edit. But if you do make edits, hit the resubmit button. Last year, people would say, oh, there was a technical error. We didn't find any technical errors. Either people didn't hit the submit button, they started applications, they didn't finish them. Make sure you follow it all the way through. I think that covers everything here. Yeah. And Erica?
So for our current school district students who are applying to criteria-based schools, the information, your grades, attendance, and assessments will be pre-populated in your application when you open your application. And this information cannot be changed or edited by an applicant. So just as Melanie just said, if there are any issues with your grades or attendance, families of current school district students are encouraged to handle this with the school now, because that information will pre-populate in the application and it cannot be changed at that time. So this includes the demographic information, the parent and guardian information, the available academic data, and I'll talk about what that looks like, but also the student status as it relates to having a current IEP, a current 504 plan, or if they are currently receiving English language services. Academic data, the grades, attendance, and assessments will only appear in applications for School District of Philadelphia students who are applying to at least one criteria-based school. So here are some of the exceptions that you would find if there is missing data. If a student is a current School District of Philadelphia student in this school year, 24-25 school year, but they were not in the school district either or both of the previous 2 years, the 22-23 or 23-24, that data will not be pre-populated in the application. And that student would need a common transcript form from an academic institution, either their current school or their prior school, to validate the grades and attendance that they received at those schools while they were not a School District of Philadelphia student. It is possible that current School District of Philadelphia students may have just a missing grade for a subject. And that's for, many different reasons. But if there is a missing grade that is not in the student information system, it will not be in the school selection application. So that student must provide that information manually and submit the common transcript form. So School District of Philadelphia students, your applications will be pre-populated with the data that is on file for the School District of Philadelphia, at the School District of Philadelphia. For students who are not enrolled in the School District of Philadelphia, students who are coming from charter schools, private schools, parochial schools, you will be required to enter your data manually. Again, if you were not enrolled in the school district for one of the previous years, then again, your information for that year will not pre-populate, and you must provide a common transcript form to verify the grades and the attendance that you will manually enter into the application. So for all students applying to criteria-based schools, if the academic grades, the academic data, the grades, attendance, the standardized assessments, and the transcript, the common transcript form, is not available and placed in the application, this may result in an incomplete application, which may be marked ineligible for the lottery for that criteria-based schools. So all students with missing academic data, all students who are not current school district of Philadelphia students must have a common transcript form that gives us the grades, attendance, and assessments. So in the application, for anyone that's missing data, these students must manually enter their academic data into the application, and it must be verified using the common transcript form. That form must be completed and signed by a counselor or administrator, either from their current school or from their previous school. Both pages must be completed with the grades and the attendance. Report cards, other transcripts from other schools, progress reports, letters of recommendations from non-district schools, they are not to substitute the common transcript form. That common transcript form must be provided in the application. So this is an example of the common transcript form. You will see here the first page collects the student's information and the school's information. On the second page is where we are asking for the letter grade for, again, English, or you can provide a letter grade for reading and writing, a letter grade for math, science, and social studies, and there are areas to put in the grades for the 2 prior years, 22-23 and 23-24. For the attendance, we are only looking at unexcused absences only, and we are looking for a number. So there in those boxes, there should be the number of unexcused absences for that year, as that is what is used to determine eligibility. And then let me talk about the Algebra 1 requirement for a minute. Masterman High School requires students to successfully complete Algebra 1 prior to admission into their high school. So for students that are non-district students or were non-district students for the prior 2 years, you will see that there are 3 years that we are looking at Algebra 1. Either that they completed Algebra 1 in the 22-23 or 23-24 year, or they may be taking Algebra 1 in this current school year, 24-25. You will answer the question whether you completed it or you're currently enrolled. That is what is required for, that is what is required to complete the application for the lottery. However, Masterman requires that all students must have successfully completed, which means you must have passed Algebra 1 prior to admission into its high school. So if accepted to Masterman High School, when they ask for and require you to submit your enrollment documents, you will also be required to submit evidence that the student passed Algebra 1 for their high school. That is really important because going back to the ranking that Melanie talked about, you're only getting one acceptance, one offer, or 0 offers. And so we would hate for a person, a young person, to get offered the one offer to Masterman and not be able to produce the records to show that they have successfully completed Algebra 1, taken the Algebra 1 course and passed the course, and now they will not be allowed to attend Masterman because that is a requirement for the high school. So we want to make sure that families understand that students must have passed Algebra 1 at the time of admission into Masterman High School. For the assessment data, so just like you are manually entering in grades and attendance, and you are providing the common transcript form, the assessment data for students who are not currently in the school district of Philadelphia, or they were not in the school district for the 22-23 or 23-24 years, you will manually have to enter into the system, the application, the assessments data. But in addition to manually entering the data, the application must also have a copy of the score report uploaded into the application. So when looking at the criteria, the applicant's highest English language arts or reading score and its highest math score is used from both of the years to determine eligibility, but documentation is required to verify all of the provided scores. So families must upload the assessment reports, which must be clear, legible, and complete. The reports must show the student's full name, the date tested, the grade level tested, the English language arts or reading scores and or percentiles, and the math scores and or percentiles. So here are let's review the resources that are available to all of our families. The first resource is the school selection website. On the school selection website, you will find all of the information that we've reviewed here this morning or this afternoon. In addition to that, you will find the criteria, the FAQs, you will see the timeline. As I said earlier, as we get closer to dates and dates are released, those updates will be made on the school selection website. We also have 2 emails where if you are looking or if you have questions regarding the policies or the procedures or anything about the school selection process, you can email schoolselect@philasd.org. And if you are experiencing technical issues, if you go to apply next Friday and you're having difficulty getting into your parent portal or student portal, you can always email family tech support@philasd.org. On our website, you will see steppers, resource videos. This video, today's recording, will be available on the website for you as a resource. We also encourage you to, if your child has an IEP, a 504 plan, or is an English learner and is applying to a criteria-based school, we welcome you to participate and encourage you to participate in our individualized review town hall Next Tuesday, September 10th at 5:30 p.m. Our in-person town hall will be held at Kappa High School, Creative and Performing Arts High School on Broad Street. We will also have a virtual individualized review town hall on next Wednesday, September 11th at 12 p.m. And so no registration is required. You can visit the school selection website to get the link for our virtual town hall for the individualized review process. I talked about the application labs earlier, where we will be throughout the city from 4 to 6 on typically Tuesdays and Thursdays from September through October through the entire application window. We will be hosting application labs at various schools and locations throughout the city. Those labs and the schedule are currently on our website, on the school selection website, where you can see them. Registration is not required. Students, families, staff members can attend any of the application labs to receive one-on-one assistance with completing the application. And then we want to walk through real quick and introduce our school finder tool, our new school finder tool that was launched this past August called Explore. And so this is a tool that is available for you to be able to look at schools, all of the school districts of Philadelphia schools, to look at their programs, to look at the criteria. And so I am going to exit out here for a second and take us to that tool. And Melanie, if you want to talk through it while I navigate the tool, or Heather.
Heather, would you like to?
Sure.
Yeah, you're probably better than me.
Okay, so this pop-up window that you're seeing is there because Erica has saved a school previously, but the Explore tool serves two purposes. It can be used for families in the city of Philadelphia to be able to enter their address in the address search field in the top left corner of the screen to locate their catchment school. After entering an address, the school list on the right side of the screen will update. The catchment schools will appear at the top with that catchment school label. You might see more than one, of course, because we know we have schools that offer different grade levels. So the grades that are offered at the catchment schools are visible there as well to support families in identifying which school is the right catchment school for their student. But we have more uses than just being able to identify your catchment school. And so we have an interactive map here on the middle. We can see the school listing on the right side, and Erica has clicked on the filter button in that top menu. The filter panel will open on the left side of the screen, and there are a lot of filters available. You can search by grade level for schools that, if you're interested in looking for schools that offer the grade level that your student is going to be applying to, there is a separate filter for grades participating in school selection, which we can see here. So you could select the appropriate filter. We also have filters for eligibility criteria. And so you can select the filters that align to your student's circumstance in terms of where they're eligible. So here, Erica selected A's, B's, and C's, and the attendance rate of 90% with ELA or math as the assessment requirement. You can multi-select because you may, depending on your student's circumstance, meet a criteria that sort of encompasses lower tiers of criteria. So you can multi-select. And then as you select eligibility criteria, the map will update, as will the school listing on the right-hand side. If we scroll past eligibility criteria, we have some additional criteria related to programming that's offered at the school, as well as athletics and other extracurricular activities or enrichment programs. You can also just search by specific school types. Say you were just interested in viewing the citywide schools that are available here in the district, you can use that filter. We also have a learning network filter. So once could we click criteria-based schools, Erica? Just because they have that extra tab. So once you have your filter set, you could then click on the icons on the map or the name of a school or program on the right side to view the school's profile. Within the school's profile, there will be a number of tabs. So the information tab will display general information about the school. The academic or extracurricular tab will detail all of the academic or extracurricular programs that are available at that school. We also have included a link to the SEPTA trip planner. So of course, if you were to click that, you would still need to enter your starting point and the end point. The address of the school is displayed here for easy access, but it can help any families who are going to rely on public transportation to be able to get to the school to figure out their route or routes. And then if it is a criteria-based school, we have the eligibility criteria tab here that will detail the criteria for that particular school. And it's not something that is, oh, let's do keywords. I don't want to skip that. In addition to our filters that are available, we also have a keyword search. And so nothing's coming up here, Erica, because you have other filters applied. Yeah, so if you click clear, you can clear out your filters. If you wanted to search for a specific keyword, I think Erica was searching for automotive. You can type in a keyword here, and then the map and the school list on the right will update to include schools or programs that whose profile contains that keyword. And so that's also a nice way to be able to kind of search based on student interest. Finally, you can bookmark or save schools. And so Erica just demonstrated on the school list on the right side how to bookmark a school. You can save or bookmark as many schools as you'd like. Clicking Save Schools will show you your list. Families or students, if your student is creating a list or you're creating a list, you can share these lists easily. No one needs to be signed in to any system to use this tool. It's available to anyone, but we have these icons at the bottom of the screen where you can enter an email and the list will be emailed to your recipient, or you can text your list to a recipient as well, if you wanted to share the schools that you're interested in. When the application is open, there will be one additional piece of functionality that's going to be available here, which we don't see yet. And it's going to be the ability to import the schools that are included in a saved school list directly into your application. So it's not there now, but after the application opens next Friday, if you visit this website, you'll also see an Apply Now button, which if you click it, will prompt you to log into your account, select the student that you want to add these schools to, and then you'd be able to add those schools that are saved to your student's application.
Thank you, Heather.
Sure.
It felt like an airline, what do you call them? Yeah.
Flight attendant.
Flight attendant, yes. So can we do the same thing with the school selection website? Because I think that's a helpful resource. And then we have some time to open it up for any questions that we want to go live with.
Okay. I think if you click school selection right there at the top of Explore, it'll take you directly to the school selection website.
Okay,
You want me to walk us through this
can
too?
you do that and I'll
Sure,
scroll?
absolutely, no problem. Okay, so the first important thing to share is that this website will continue to be updated with resources, information as we move throughout the timeline. Erica reviewed the timeline towards the beginning of our town hall this afternoon, but it is also available here on the main page of the website on the right side of the screen. And we know right now we have, very clearly defined the opening and the closing dates of the application. But as we move forward and approach more of those kind of key milestone phases, specific dates will be added and included here. We see a lot of information here on the main page that Erica has already shared. So that's everything we just saw was what was in the About section using the blue navigation menu on the left side of the screen. Erica has moved to criteria by school. This is where you can visit if you're interested in just seeing at a glance for all of the criteria-based schools, what their requirements are. They are divided into high schools and middle schools. And so you can see for each column, we'll list the schools that have those requirements in blue at the top, and then detail the grade requirements. We see here that we have some schools that have requirements of A's and B's, others A's, B's, and 1C, A's, B's, and 2C's, or A's, B's, and C's. Similarly, for attendance, we have that 95% attendance criteria, which equates to no more than 9 unexcused absences, or we have 90% attendance criteria for other schools, which equates to no more than 18 unexcused absences. Our assessment criteria, so standardized assessments, is also listed here. We have 80th percentile for both ELA and math, 65th percentile schools for both ELA and math, 50th percentile schools for both ELA and math. And then we have other schools that don't require 50th percentile in both, but just one. So if you see ELA or math in the assessment criteria, that means that a student only needs to obtain 50th percentile or better in one of those content areas to meet criteria for that school. We also detail if there are any additional requirements. So that may include Algebra 1 for a Masterman. We also, if it is a school that includes a project-based presentation or an audition, those additional requirements are also detailed here. We repeat that same structure when looking at middle schools below. And so we see our grade requirements, attendance, assessment, and of course, any additional requirements for middle schools. We also, Erica, if we look at the about the criteria, here, we have, again, some general information which we've shared about the criteria, but I do want to highlight that this is where families can access the PSSA conversion chart. So if you know your student's scaled score for their ELA or math PSSAs for the previous 2 years, you can use these charts to help translate that scaled score into that student's percentile. Additionally, this section of the website also details the approved standardized assessment. So if you have a student who did not participate in the PSSA and wants to submit scores for an approved standardized assessment, the list of acceptable assessments is included here. And there's a link we want to highlight down here at the bottom in green where it says for more information about requirements, including FAQs, to visit that website. That's a great place to visit if you're you are or you know a family who has questions around the standardized assessments, including I want my student to take one of these approved alternative or approved standardized assessments. What's the process for taking one if my student doesn't have a PSSA score? There's information here that can help guide you in how to access one of those approved alternative tests. Okay, we're going to go back to the main page of the school selection website. Yeah, the town halls and events page is also a really great resource. So if you're joining us here today, it may be that you've already visited this page because you found the link to our virtual town hall. We want to plug that we are hosting town halls next week around the individualized review process. We did speak about that process today, but when we host our town halls next week, we will go into much greater detail around the individualized review process. We will have facilitators from the cross-functional teams that comprise the individualized review team. And so we invite you to join us. If you're unable to join us, please know that you could visit this page later to view the recording from today's session or the recording from next week's session if you're unable to make it. Erica and her team and the Office of Student Enrollment and Placement are hosting application assistance labs. She spoke about them earlier. Here are the dates, times, and locations for all of those application assistance labs, again, across the city to be able to support students and families with participating in the school selection process. The next, oh, okay, sorry. Thanks. We also have information here. We will share information around open houses, dates and times, and information about how to attend shortly. I know that the team is working to get that information up relatively soon. We saw there were a lot of questions and of course a lot of interest in open house schedules for schools. And so you can visit this website to see more information about school open houses. And then the last piece here for families is information around the K-12 Philly School Fair. The fair will take place at the Pennsylvania Convention Center on Friday, September 27th from 3 to 6 p.m. and Saturday, September 28th from 10 to 2 p.m. Families can attend the fair to learn about schools, programs, application requirements, and deadlines. It's really great resource. It is, we have a lot of representation from district schools. They're at the school fair, so it's also a good resource. And then in the resources and FAQs, we have created steppers and guidance documents that are going to be published here prior to the opening of the application system. Here, you would be able to access those resources in English as well as the district supported languages. We're also, if you want to, I guess, yeah, sorry, letters to families. We'll link the communication. So if you want to revisit communications that have been shared throughout the process, that will be available there. The high school directory. I see. That's the updated one, right, Erica? Great. Okay, so it's also, that's available there. You know, we have Explore, we have the high school directory. We're not saying that you need to use one over another. If you're interested in exploring, you'll find a lot of the same information is contained within both of those resources. They're just two different ways of learning more about the schools in our district. And then do we want to look at Contact Us? Cool. So here we have a form that can be used to be able to submit questions to the school selection team. And so you'll notice after you scroll down through that kind of initial information, we have some topics that you can select from: standardized assessment questions, individualized review, or general questions. When the appeals window is open, you could also, if you were going to file an appeal, use the tools that are available there to do so. But submitting questions through this form really is the same as sending an email to one of those email addresses that we're going to share in just a minute. Again, it's just another way of sort of accessing and submitting those questions. Okay, Erica, I'm going to toss it back to you.
Thanks, Heather. So here you have the contact information. As Heather just showed you, you could go on the school selection website, or you can email any of these emails directly at School Select, individualized review at philasd.org. Again, our family tech support line is there to help you with any technical issues. And then for appeals, it's appeals at philasd.org. And so I will open the floor. We have just a couple of minutes left, but I will open the floor. If there are any questions, please place them in the Q&A. And I will look to my colleagues to share any questions that are outstanding that you feel are good for the good of the group.
Eric, if I could jump in real quick. Thank you to
Absolutely.
the team who's been answering the questions so quickly, and thank you to the participants for asking so many great questions. A common question we're seeing in there is that the PSSA scores are not available or are wrong. The PSSA scores were updated this week, so I would ask each of you, if you log back into the parent portal, the layout of the parent portal has changed a little bit. If you know how to go to the announcements and go to SchoolNet, make sure where you're in SchoolNet and you go to standardized test, that you are filtering for the 24-25 year, and you should see correct PSSA scores in there. If you still don't, please call it says reach out to the SSA group, but I would actually, Erica, if you're okay, I would like them to call the 400-4444. I don't see any technical issue, but if you're a parent and you're logging in and you still don't see the correct PSSA scores, I'd like to see a help desk ticket on it so we can look up the specific parents that are saying there's issues.
Great. Are there any other questions that are worth lifting? All great questions, I'm sure. Yes, Lizette.
There's been a couple of questions about the middle to high school ranking. Parents had questions like if they were in Masterman for 8th grade or GAMP and things of that sort, do they need to rank that school number 1 in order to hold their seat?
Thank you for those questions. I think there's a couple different scenarios people are putting out. We're going to get clarification from the vendor, and then I'm going to suggest that we send individual letters to each school community, to Masterman, to GAMP, to Carver, and to Hill Friedman. What I can tell you for sure right now is that if you put your choice of your continuing school, if you go to Masterman right now for 8th grade and you want to stay for 9th grade, put it as your first choice. For all those combos where parents they may want to take a shot at going to Central or going to Masterman first, I'm going to try to get extreme clarity and send it out to those communities to see that how that works, because I'm afraid right now I'm going to give general scenarios and then someone's going to say it didn't meet my exact scenario. So we'll get that in writing and send it to those specific school communities and to those families specifically within the next week.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions that you want to lift? Okay. All right, well, again, thank you for your participation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your questions. We look forward to working with you and supporting you through this process. And so please take advantage of the resources that are available to you. We stand ready to support you and to support our young people in their high school or their school selection application. So thank you again. And we will end at this time.
Thank you, Erica and team. Thank you, everyone, for joining.